16 years after 9/11, the U.S. continues to fight radical Islamic terrorists in Afghanistan. The conflict there has been America's longest war on record. Thousands of Americans have been killed, nearly 2,500, and it has cost over $1 trillion. 60 Minutes this Sunday will air a full report on the current situation, and they gave us an exclusive preview. Now, watch this clip of 60 Minutes correspondent Lara Logan describing what it is like for the U.S. military in Afghanistan's capital of Kabul.
A few years ago, American convoys regularly drove on the airport road below. Now the view from the helicopter window is all most on board will see of Kabul. They'll stay behind blast walls for the rest of their time in Afghanistan. We wanted to know what it says about where we are in this war if American troops can't drive 2 miles down a road in Kabul.
It's a country at war, and it's a capital that is under attack by a determined enemy.
No U.S. general has spent more time here than John Nicholson, the commander of American forces in Afghanistan.
We do everything possible to protect our forces. So
protecting, you're not using the roads.
Protecting the lives of our troops is our number one priority. If we can fly instead of drive, and that offers them a greater degree of safety, then it's the prudent and the right thing to do.
In military terms, that's called surrendering the terrain.
I disagree. I think it's answering our moral imperative to protect the lives of our soldiers and civilians. So that's what we do.
60 Minutes correspondent Lara Logan is with us now. So good to see you.
Thank you.
You're like Sarah Carter. You spent 20 years in more than 2 decades in war zones. You were CBS's chief foreign correspondent in 2006, chief foreign affairs correspondent in 2008. You're still going back to these war zones. Why is this such a passion of yours?
Why is it such a passion? Because I believe in it. I believe that it's important that we go out on the end of the line to the places that some people might not want to go or be able to go, and we hold our leaders and ourselves accountable for the decisions that we make.
Mm-hmm. But you do put yourself at risk when you do this. You know, I remember how awful. Well, we watched what happened in Tahrir Square, and I remember what you said at the time when you spoke about it. You said, in a moment, everything went wrong. And I know it broke my heart and a lot of people's hearts about what was happening to you, but that's the environment. You're still throwing yourself back into those environments.
Which should tell you that you don't do it for the adrenaline, right? If it costs you that much, you have to do it because it's that important to you. And it's sort of like you, right? I feel this is the reason I was put on this earth. You know, I want to be the best mother I can be. That's so important to me. But this is like breathing for me. It's why I was born.
That's an amazing commitment to what you think your life's purpose is. So we're 16 years later. In this interview that will air on 60 Minutes on Sunday, you do talk to the U.S. commander in Afghanistan. You also talk to the Afghan president. What are they telling you 16 years later?
Well, you know, General Nicholson has a tough job. So does President Ghani. And I say that with the utmost respect for what both of them are dealing with. And it's our job to be tough. And I was really tough. And to their, well, especially General Nicholson, you know, to his credit, he didn't dodge a single question. And he's been there longer than any other U.S. general. And he's served a number of times. And he's very, very committed to this. Mm-hmm. But his, you know, to some degree, he's facing an overwhelming challenge. So he wouldn't like that, though. He thinks he can win.
Well, he actually, in the interview with you, he actually says that it's more important than ever that we win, that we beat Islamic militant terror. We need to defeat the ideology. And he said if we lose here, or if we were to leave here, the cost would be unacceptable. Explain what he was actually saying there, because the president gave him 3,000 more troops.
Well, I said to him, you know, Americans are more concerned about a guy going to rent a truck from Home Depot than they are about terrorists coming from Afghanistan to attack. And he said, that's exactly the point, is if you lose here, you embolden the guys who are going to Home Depot. Mm-hmm. And in his view, that's what makes it so important to defeat the ideology, because the ideology is what drives every attack on any part of the planet. And what's the one thing, Sean, that has never changed and that every single one of them share? Doesn't matter if it's Timbuktu or Paris or New York. Mm-hmm. They share the exact same ideology.
And that's why it just bothered me so much. I won't drag you into politics when the president oversees contingency operations, man-caused disasters, the mysterious reluctance and resistance to say radical Islamic terrorism, like the commander is telling you. We have made tremendous progress. I want to get your perspective, having been over there so many times. Did the rules of engagement now being changed to let the commanders on the ground and the troops on the ground make the decision, is that responsible for the last year, the degrading of ISIS that we have seen so dramatically?
Are you talking now about Afghanistan or beyond
I'm
to Syria and Iraq?
Generally speaking, because they're mostly pushed out of Iraq, but we still have, we're dealing with terrorism. Obviously, it's a worldwide problem.
Well, the Iraqis said just this week that there are at least 3,000 ISIS terrorists still operating in their country.
But far less.
Far less, yes. So any military commander will tell you that easing the rules of engagement, them having the latitude to make decisions on the ground is hugely significant. There's always more factors involved, but in my experience, I pay a lot of attention to what these people say and to what they do. And they very often tell you, they telegraph for you their intentions. And they see this as proof. The fact that they were forced out of Raqqa and they were forced out of Mosul reinforces their propaganda and their message, because it's proof that the U.S., that the rest of the world isn't going to let them have the caliphate that they deserve. The
courage of people like you and Sarah Carter, and after all you went through, to keep going back to these war zones, it's important. We're glad you do it. We'll be watching Sunday nights on 60 Minutes. Thank you, Lara, for stopping by.